we'd like to thank some of the folks here who have been tremendously helpful to us in organizing this event. The facility itself has been tremendous, Vancouver Convention Center. If you have time while you're here, if you're not from Vancouver, please make time to familiarize yourself with the new facility, the new art, the architectural design. It's an amazing, I think, the world's recognized to be one of the real architectural achievements in convention centers, and I wanted to put in that plug for them. The city of Vancouver is phenomenal. We've had amazing media response to this event, reasons that are in the ether that I think all of us know. You know, there's a fabulous movie that came out last year. There were people in the news in autism, ranging from the sciences to the arts, who are now being recognized for their contributions to society and to the good things about society. And that's what this event is all about, celebrating. And so the media here in Vancouver in particular has just been phenomenal. And I think our speakers, our staff, it seems like everybody's getting calls from people wanting to know, not about Autism Today, not about Autism Vancouver per se, but what is it? And you always know that something good is happening when the people you've been trying to reach for a really long time are saying, what is autism anyway? And we feel very excited, and I'm sure we all sort of feel that groundswell. That's so exciting when you know at last people are beginning to understand what this is and the opportunity that it presents to our communities to recognize those gifts these children have. Finally, the community, as you know, in addition to behavioral and biomedical, this event could be called Behavioral, Biomedical, and Arts Congress, because at the end of the day, the sacrifices that everyone's making at home, working with loved ones who have autism, or the people on the spectrum who are discovering themselves and discovering how to express themselves in a social context, at the end of the day, it's what's happening at the community and what you're doing that is so powerful and that makes doing these types of events, above all, so exciting as a community building exercise, and it's always what we're trying to do. Karen wanted me to say that most events start, they say, now please turn off your cell phones. We would like to invite you because, first and foremost, Karen, when she founded Autism Today and started doing these conferences, she craved what is now called a social network. She had been faced with the diagnosis that she had trouble even defining when it was given to her. And there was nothing in the mid-90s. And even 5 years ago, you'll talk to people. I was talking to a lawyer, engineer, patent attorney yesterday who had a child a few years back. He said in 2005, there was nothing. There's nothing for autism, nothing. We want you to talk about what happens here. We want you to have your cell phones on. Put it on vibrate, but we want you to turn your cell phone on. We want you to use these new tools. We want you to go on Twitter. We want you to go on Facebook. Talk to each other, talk to the world about what's happening here and what you're learning here, because every year something new, whether you're going to be hearing from Shannon Kennetz about new technologies that so many people find useful in working with their children on the biomedical side, or you're hearing from wonderful behavioralists like Stephen Shore or Doreen Grampachet and others. Talk to each other and talk to the world. So Autism Today, one of your hosts today, in addition to Great Plains Laboratories, is above all an online company. And Karen, what she had in addition to some military background and some experience running a business, when Johnny was born and she learned what autism was, and she realized there were no resources, she started an online company in the late 90s. And her objective was to create, she saw bulletin boards, she saw communication, email, and she wanted to be able to make these resources available to others so they wouldn't go through what she went through, trying to figure out what to do, what was best for her child. Today, Autism Today is very focused on creating, producing, and delivering autism-related educational, inspirational, entertainment, and community networking resources that are available and accessible for everybody. So that's really our goal. And I think there are a lot of people in this space now because You've had to be resourceful when you have a child with autism, and you wind up being an attorney, an advocate, an accountant, a teacher. You become a psychologist, a pharma psychologist. You become everything to provide that resource. And I think what Karen seeks to be most, and what we try to do, is to be, above all, just a friendly meeting place for everybody. Whether you're J.A. Tan, who's one of our autism artists here, who's graciously provided the installation in the back of the room, or you're one of our experts contributing. We want to share it with as many people as we can. Karen Simmons. If we could have the first slide. First and foremost, as a storyteller, she began writing as a way of a means of therapy initially, but again, trying to share the story of her son and help people understand her son. That story, and stories are what we really emphasize when it comes to Karen, led eventually to Little Rain Man, her first book, which was very successful enough that she was noticed by the publishers of the Chicken Soup for the Soul series. And with her co-authorship, eventually she helped bring out Chicken Soup for the Soul for the special needs child. Karen's story begins with somebody that we've been honoring, I think, since last summer when we lost her. Mitzi Breen, Karen's mom, was the inspiration in her life. A phenomenal lady of her day, educated when most women were staying at home. She was a storyteller par excellence, and her storytelling kept the family together over the years and gave Karen a sense that through thick and thin, what holds you together at the worst of times is the story that you're telling yourself about what your experience means. A story about Mitzi that's terribly important to us because it's sort of how it all came together for us as a team is, like all of you probably, when the Emmys were on last summer, and Temple Grandin had been nominated for about a million Emmys. Karen, like so many of you, was sitting on the edge of her bed because somehow you knew this was a really important thing. And of course, we all know and love Temple Grandin and her mother, Eustacia, who will be here. And one after another, those awards are sort of coming through for Temple. And each one is like a validation of every person who knows and loves or is on the spectrum, that somehow the community understands us at last. Karen was sitting on her bed, had strict instructions to be left alone to watch this, and she was getting a brr, brr, or somebody, actually, yeah. The family is actually knocking on the door. There's a phone call from Susan. There's a phone call from your sister. You've got to take it. And she said, no, I've got it. This is too important. And finally, that wonderful moment where Temple is on stage and she takes that beautiful statue and that thing that every mom and family and dad relate, they were there. They were on that stage with Temple when Temple went, Eustacia, this is yours. You stand up. And the power of moms who we honor specially, but Bill Davis is here. We've got dads here too. The moment where the family is validated is no matter what you've sacrificed, it could be your marriage, it could be all of your savings, whatever it is, that validation is so gigantic. So gigantic. And Karen's there and, you know, in tears and this flood of emotion and a dam burst, and she's just in the zone, on the stage with Temple, in the audience as a mom, really, sitting with Eustacia and just experiencing that validation. Finally, somebody comes in and says, this is really important, you've got to take this call. And it's Susan. And Susan's calling to say that Mitzi was found in her house in Mobile, Alabama, that she had died. And so in that wash of emotion, and I say this because I feel like I was practically there. the power of that moment, really, that the person who had equipped her in her response to Johnny's diagnosis and had enabled her not only to find the resources she needed, but then prompted her, as so many of you are prompted, to then go out to the community and say, I don't know how this can help you, but take it. It was joy and pain and heartbreak and all the mix, the welter of emotions that anybody in this community feels every day, but intensified and distilled into a single moment. That's who Karen is. That's what we as Karen staff get up to honor every day we go to work. And that's a story and an example of a story that motivates us in what we do to do our best to serve this community. So with that, I guess I'd like to turn the podium over to our favorite storyteller, Karen Simmons, the founder and president of Autism Today, to share her story.
Thank you, Scott. Thank you, everyone. I'm so happy that we've got such wonderful staff and volunteers that have helped us pull this together. And nobody could have said that better than Scott. He's our new manager, and it's just, a lot's happened in the past 6 months. So now I'm going to share a story with you from Chicken Soup for the Soul. And it's one of my favorites, written by Michelle Guppy, called The Little Boy Who Waves. On the first day of school, if I can get through it without crying. On the first day of school, the yellow bus with a squeaky brake stopped in front of our house.